And welcome to today's webinar. I am Erica Young, Director of Housing Access and Affordability at the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy. And one of the networks I work with here is the Innovations in Manufactured Housing Network, which is 22 years old and focuses on the role of highlighting the importance of the manufactured housing sector and supporting the needs of its homeowners. Today's webinar is to discuss our recently released I'm Home Manufactured Housing Benchmarking white paper. Couple of points of housekeeping. We are recording, so if you don't want to be captured on this webinar, please note that we are recording. So another thing is that we are going to have a poll after I do a quick introduction. I just want to ensure that everyone understands how that works. The chat will not be functioning, but you will be able to use the Q&A box. And we'll try to get to all of your questions. For those that we can't, we will try to follow up. So let me introduce our two speakers today. We have Kim Vermeer. She is a longstanding affordable housing and sustainability practitioner. She is proud to put her expertise to work on behalf of the I'm Home Network, joining the effort to expand manufactured housing's role in addressing the U.S.'s affordability and homeownership crisis. Her experience with energy efficiency, healthy housing, resilience, and durability is helping I'm Home to advance its goals for high quality, affordable manufactured housing for all. Also joining Kim will be Grant Beck. He is the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at NextStep Network, a national social enterprise working to increase affordable homeownership opportunities through expanded use of manufactured housing through manufactured homes. He oversees matters related to development and fundraising, strategic communications, and affordable housing policy and advocacy. Prior to this, Grant spent a decade in mission-driven marketing and communications, overseeing brand management, digital communications, and messaging for national nonprofit organizations. So I'm pleased to turn this over, as well as getting ready to post the poll question. Thank you. So Kim, do you want to go ahead and get started? You're on mute, Kim.
Oh, of course. Hello, everyone. So glad you're filling out the poll. We are really happy that you're here today and can't wait to find out who has joined us in the poll. As Erica said, we're here on behalf of the I'm Home Network. And the I'm Home Network believes that manufactured housing should be high quality, should be available, and it should be affordable to all. And working backwards on that, affordability means that the initial price and the ongoing cost for financing, for the utilities, for the maintenance of the home are affordable over the long term. Available means that homes are produced and are able to be shipped and placed where people want to live. And high quality means standards that deliver durable, efficient, healthy, and safe homes for people. And the I'm Home Network works to advance that vision across several areas of work, including housing finance, tenure, security, and housing quality. And today our focus is going to be on that housing quality. Can we close the poll and find out who's here? Oh, we've got a lot of others. Well, maybe in the Q&A, you can tell us who you are if you're in that other category. Thank you. We can close the poll. So for the benchmark, thinking about quality, what we're getting at here is that all manufactured housing is built to high standards, and that as a result, they offer owners durable, efficient, healthy, and safe homes. And we wanted to start looking at how we could measure what's happening in the industry to advance that vision. And that was the genesis for the benchmark. But the question is how to assess what's going on and how to see whether housing quality is being improved and is more widely available. And so, again, we really focused on the housing quality elements. We did not create a benchmark that's assessing the finance, the tenure security, some of the other important issues in the whole world of manufactured housing, but really focusing on the quality. And we really wanted to look at where homes are built, where they are shipped and placed. And we wanted to see whether some of the home certification programs that encourage manufacturers to build to a higher standard are being used in the manufactured housing industry. And we also wanted to look at what other elements are out there that influence manufacturer and home purchaser choices, and that's the policies and programs that are part of the overall regulation and implementation within the industry, and whether home purchase finance programs are encouraging different design standards or certifications. And so we have three elements for the benchmark. And also, I'll say, as one more preamble to talking about the elements, that we focus on new construction homes and we focus on national programs. And again, we're looking at the industry as a whole. So we did not look at individual producers or manufacturers. We did not look at individual home designs. We're really looking at the whole ecosystem and what happened. And so we have these three areas: the production, placement, and certification. We have the programs, regulations, and policies that set the framework for the industry, and the financing programs for home purchasers. And we'll look at each in turn. First category, production. The first question is how many homes are being produced? And we set this up to look pre and post pandemic, curious to see whether the pandemic had an effect on production. And I would say we were somewhat surprised to see that the pandemic, at least, did not seem to affect production at all. And in fact, production increased a little bit over the pandemic time period. But production in 2023 fell off. And although we don't know for sure, our assumption is that the continued high interest rates, some of the inflation that caused costs of building materials to increase, and some labor challenges all combined to reduce the amount of production that happened in 2023. Now, we do have the 2024 data for production, and production in 2024 has recovered a little bit. There were about 95,000 homes that were produced in 2024. The other consideration around production is what is the split between single section homes and multi-section homes. And we care about this because in terms of quality and durability and affordability, we want to make sure that benefits that improve those conditions for homes are being shared evenly between the single section homes and the multi-section homes. We wouldn't want to see a situation where multifamily homes are built to higher standards and single section homes are left behind in that. So the next part of production is where are production facilities located? And there are about 26 states that have production facilities. The darker the color, the more production facilities in that state. And as you can see on the map, most of the production facilities are in the south, in the southeast or the southwest. But there's also a strong strip in the north central from Pennsylvania and Indiana, with Ohio in between. And we can also see that there are factories and production facilities on the West Coast as well, in Arizona, California, and Oregon. And then the other question is, okay, they're produced there, but where are they being shipped to once they're built, and where are they being placed? And the good news there is that homes are being shipped and placed to every state in the continental US. They don't make it to Hawaii, and they don't make it to Alaska, and they don't make it to Puerto Rico, but the continental United States gets homes. But although we don't have a slide to show it, you won't be surprised to know that the closer to a production facility, the more homes we find in states. And so it definitely um, influences where homes go by where the production facilities are located. The other question we have in this first category is, how are homes being placed? Once they get delivered to where they're going to be, how are they sited in the place where they land? And we're using the data from the Manufactured Housing Monthly Survey that the U.S. Census runs on behalf of HUD. And that report is telling us that fewer than 20% of homes are going onto a permanent concrete foundation. And it's not great for the multi-section homes, and it's even less great for the single-section homes. And we care about this pie chart because that foundation quality as an important predictor of home durability, of home ability to be resilient in severe storms and weather. And it also is a big player in what kind of financing is available to a home purchaser when they are ready to buy their home. And so it's concerning to see that the permanent foundations is such a small share of placements at this point in time. And the final segment of this category is home certifications. And when we look at a national level, the two biggest certification programs that are available for manufactured housing are the Energy Star for New Manufactured Homes program, run by EPA, and the Zero Energy Ready Home program, which is run by the Department of Energy, DOE. And EPA's Energy Star program has been around for a while, and EPA has been a good partner with the industry to get production facilities certified to produce homes and to keep the standards pretty up to date. The current version is the version 3, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail in a few minutes. And then the DOE program is new. It was the program has been available kind of in pilot mode for single family site-built homes, but in 2022, in response to the Inflation Reduction Act and some tax credit incentives, it was expanded to have a program for manufactured housing with design standards that piggyback on the Energy Star program and then add other design requirements from some other EPA programs, the Indoor Air Plus and the WaterSense program, and a few extra things in order to get that Zero Energy Ready Homes certification. And that's a brand new program. So in 2023, we are just catching the first wave of participation in that program. Now, for both programs, it's a two-part process where factories, the production facilities, first have to be certified to be eligible to produce the homes. And then the step 2 is that they actually have to have home designs and production lines that deliver certified homes at the end of the line. So the next two slides are some tables so that we can compare what's going on at the factory level and at the home certification level. So the first is the factory, the production facility certification. And of course, the baseline number is the number of facilities that are certified to produce HUD code homes. That's our base. And we were happy to see that there was actually an increase in the number of certified HUD code facilities between 2019 and 2023. And the number of states with factories is holding steady at 26. So about half the states in the country have a HUD certified HUD code of production facility. And so then the next question is, of those HUD code factories, how many have achieved that Energy Star certification for the production facility? And there, it's exciting to see that there's been this increase between 2019 and 2023 from 75 to 103. So, and then getting back to that question of where are homes being built and shipped to, we're interested in that wide geography of those certified facilities, and it's good to see that 23 out of the 26 states have a production facility. So that it means that families who want to buy an Energy Star certified home have a good chance of finding a production facility that can deliver that home for them. Then a zero energy ready factory that has one that's an add-on certification. So the Energy Star is part of that. So we see that at the end of 2023, and again, remembering that this is a brand new program in 2023, 40 facilities had gotten certified for zero energy ready home. And there were 12. So just under half of the states had a facility that had achieved that zero energy ready home certification. But again, it was brand new in 2023, and we expect both of those numbers to have increased a lot in 2024, and we're looking forward to understanding that as we move forward. And so the second piece of this, the second table, is what about homes? And our first row of this table shows the number of shipments per year. The second row is the number that received an Energy Star certification. And it's great to see that number increasing from 7% in 2019 to 36% in 2023. And in zero energy ready homes, we were able to get data through the first quarter of 2024. And at that point, there were just under 7,300 homes that had achieved that certification. And so that means that it was almost a quarter of the homes that received the Energy Star certification also achieved that zero energy ready homes certification. So we've made it through that first section of the report, the production, the placement, and the certification. Let's move on to programs, regulation, and policy. And again, reminding ourselves that we're talking about the national level. That means our federal agencies. And there are really three federal agencies that play a role in the manufactured housing industry: HUD, EPA, and DOE. So let's consider each of them in turn. HUD, in the past administration, put all of the manufactured housing program and policy work in one place and created a new Office of Manufactured Homes Programs. And that's where we have the oversight and the administration of the Manufactured Housing Consensus Committee, the MHCC. And the MHCC is the group that oversees recommendations and suggests what should be added to or updated in the HUD code. And so they play a very important role in the maintenance of the HUD code and the standards that govern all production. And then the other thing that HUD does is that there are 14 states that have chosen to not have state oversight of that whole placement process of homes and how they get sited. And so HUD is responsible for that oversight in those states. and they do that through a third-party vendor that manages a network of inspectors and others to oversee that. The other important thing that happens at HUD for manufactured housing is at the Federal Housing Administration with the loan programs and the loan insurance programs. We call those the Title II and the Title I loan programs. Title II is the mortgage programs that are available to manufactured housing as well as any other type of housing. And Title I is a combination of repair and retrofit loan products, and also for the private property home only loan programs. Sometimes those are called the chattel loan programs. And the FHA is also the place where the standards for what is considered a mortgage eligible foundation are made. And you remember we talked about how the challenge that fewer than 20% of homes are placed on those type of foundations. Another challenge is that those standards have not been updated since 1996. And so there are a lot of reasons to think that the whole question of foundations, the standards, what's considered permanent, is ready for a deep policy dive and perhaps some updates so that more homes can be installed on a wider range of eligible mortgage eligible foundations. So we talked about EPA already a little bit. We have the Energy Star for New Manufactured Homes program. And we're really glad for the support that EPA has given to Energy Star and to the manufactured housing industry. And the program and the requirements has progressed over time. Right now, we're in version 3 of the program standards for what's required. And 2025 is a bit of a transition year. It is possible to still build homes to version 2, but at the end of 2025, beginning in 2026, all homes will need to be built to the version 3 standards. And EPA has also just issued their cost report on what the benefits and the costs are for building to the version 3 standards. And I believe we're putting the link in the chat for you so that if you're interested in downloading and reading that report, you should be able to access it. As we talked a little bit earlier, in the single family space for the Energy Star Home program, and meaning the site-built single family, if a home achieves the Energy Star, it can also piggyback on that with the Indoor Air Plus certification and the WaterSense certification. Indoor Air Plus is a program that prioritizes ventilation at higher levels and higher standards than is in the base of the Energy Star program, and also considers things like moisture management to keep homes dry and the off-gassing of the materials and finishes for the home, trying to really ensure that the home is healthy as well as energy efficient. And WaterSense is about saving water. So one area for conversation perhaps with EPA is to see whether it might be possible to add those certification options in the manufactured housing world, so that that can be additional options, because some of the design requirements from those two programs have been incorporated into the Zero Energy Ready Home design guidelines, but not the certifications because they're not available. But not every home is going to be built to the Zero Energy Ready standards. And so it would be good to have Energy Star plus Indoor Air Plus plus WaterSense as an option for manufacturers and for home buyers in the future. Finally, our friends at DOE, they have two roles: a statutory role where they are responsible for keeping the energy standards for manufactured housing development up to date, And we go into more detail in the report. I won't go into that detail here. That has been, let's call that a work in progress. But nevertheless, there are new energy standards now, and those are being implemented. That's their statutory role. And then their programmatic role is to manage the Zero Energy Ready Homes program. And as we said, they developed the manufactured homes version of it in 2022 and have been busy rolling it out in 2023. All right, we've made it through our second section of policy and programs. And so let's just quickly talk about financing and see whether financing is influencing the manufacturer's choices about how they build homes and purchasers' choices about what they would like to buy. And again, we have this whole home only or chattel financing that is very widely used in manufactured housing. So we did look to see whether there were any incentives in the main funding organizations for those type of loans to encourage energy efficiency or to encourage high other metrics of higher quality homes, and there really weren't any. And so we focused our attention on the three entities that provide mortgage financing. So again, keep in mind that these are mortgage products that we're discussing in the next couple of slides. So these are the programs. Let's start with the new homes column. At FHA, those are the Title II programs. And you can get a standard mortgage or you can get an energy efficient mortgage if you have certain additional measures in the home that meet their criteria and or if you have the Energy Star certification. And at Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the two GSEs, over the last few years, they've developed some programs to encourage a combination of better energy efficiency and some aesthetic measures like higher pitched roofs and garages and porches added onto homes. And so those are the Fannie Mae's MH Advantage program and Freddie Mac's Choice Home program. In existing housing, there's two paths. One is you're an existing home owner, you want to do some renovations, you want to do some energy upgrade measures for your home. You can get a rehab energy efficient loan or refinance to accomplish that. And all three of our funders have a program to fit that. The other thing is that you can be a new purchaser of an existing home and want to do some of those energy or just general necessary upgrades at the time you buy the home, and you can get all three of those programs have options for that as well. So there are programs and financing that can encourage families to make a choice for a more energy efficient home and have that reflected in maybe some of the programs it's a slightly lower interest rate or slightly lower down payments, or if you're familiar with loan underwriting, the underwriter will allow the family to put a little bit more of their income toward their housing costs when they're looking at the ratios and the percentages to underwrite the loan. But again, we have to ask ourselves, are these programs widely available? And the answer is no, because so few homes are put on a foundation that is going to qualify them for mortgage financing in the first place. And I think Grant and I will talk a little bit more about the consumer knowledge and information about that and who is making that choice for them or not. So we'll talk about that some more. So we've come to the end of our categories in our first benchmark. We talked about production. We talked about where homes are being shipped to and placed and how they're being placed. We talked about the certification programs. We covered the roles that our big federal agencies of HUD, DOE, and EPA are playing in the industry and in encouraging higher quality homes, and we've looked at financing. So what do we see from all of that? Well, one thing we note is that the tax credits seem to be a big driver in the recent uptake in the Energy Star and the Zero Energy Ready Homes programs. There is for the manufacturers, for the builders, an up to $2,500 tax credit per unit for achieving the Energy Star certification, and up to $5,000 per unit for achieving the Zero Energy Ready Homes certification. And so that tax credit seems to have been a big driver. Another thing we've seen is that the foundation methods are lagging the home quality out of the factory. That it continues to be a challenge to get a home uh, put on a permanent concrete foundation, and that is both concerning from a durability and a resilience point of view, as well as from a financing options point of view. And then, although we didn't talk about it in great detail, over time now there's going to be two certification paths for single section and multi-section homes within that new V3 Energy Star program. So we'll be watching closely to see whether single section homes are participating in the program at the same rate as the multi-section homes. And so with that, I'm going to catch my breath and bring Grant into the conversation. And I'm going to stop the share on the slide so it can just be me and Grant talking. Oh, I've lost my mouse. It's gone to my other screen. Uh-oh. How do I get it back? Well, we'll talk with Grant while I figure that out. Hi, Grant.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
Good. While I try to figure out how to get my mouse on the correct screen, um, NextStep was one of the I'm Home Network members that was really pushing for the network to start understanding the quality and the what was happening. And so I'm curious about your reaction to our first effort to create this benchmark.
Yeah, absolutely. And first off, thank you so much for inviting me to the conversation today. And thanks to the I'm Home team for working very hard in their continued work in this space. So I think this is a tremendous resource. As our staff is out talking to a variety of stakeholders, we're consistently asked questions about the quality, energy efficiency, and climate resiliency of these homes. We're beginning to see more dedicated research and data collection in the manufactured housing space. And it's very helpful for us as we work with folks to help them understand this supply solution. And I think there's a lot of value in doing more of this kind of work. Data and research are critical components of telling the story. And so reinforcing and expanding the scope of this benchmark report is a great way to support advocates' work in the field.
Great. So NextStep, from its beginnings, has focused on quality, and early adopter of Energy Star as minimum standard for homes. And so, as you reflect on what we reported here, how is that relating to your experience as a promoter, developer, seller of high quality manufactured housing?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, NextStep has always been a leader in home quality. So as we kind of reflect on this, perhaps most importantly, to ensure the cost of home ownership remains sustainable for the folks that are purchasing these homes. So to that end, we've always embraced Energy Star back to our organization's earliest days. We're doing the same thing now with the Zero Energy Ready home. So we're thrilled to see that greater adoption of Energy Star. I think in particular, the data you showed, that uptick not only in the number of Energy Star certified home building facilities, but also the number of home shipments. So even despite the kind of dip that we saw in 2023 with overall home shipments, most likely attributed to the higher interest rate environment for home ownership, that percentage jumping from, I think it was 19 to 36%, that's certainly significant and a trend that we'd like to continue to see. And in fact, in Kentucky, where NextStep's work began, we saw this jump a little bit earlier. In 2015, only 53 homes shipped to the state were Energy Star certified, and that jumped to 472 homes by the end of 2018. And we know that Clayton, who's the largest producer and home builder working in this space, has moved their production to meet DOE's Zero Energy Ready standard for all homes. And so certainly that'll hopefully give that standard a head start in overall market adoption as it starts to ramp up in the coming years.
Great. And so we measured what we could measure with available public data, and we certainly know that energy efficiency and the basic home durability and performance standards that those programs require is important metrics for home quality. But if what are some of the other things what's your next goals for improving housing quality and getting adopted as standard practice for homes on your next step wish list, work list?
Yeah, I think a next step home has a few defining characteristics. So our homes either meet or exceed Energy Star or Zero Energy Ready standards. Our homes are always placed on Title II FHA permanent foundations, which you spoke to in your section, which qualifies folks for a variety of mortgage financing options. Our homes are built to HUD's Wind Zone 3 specifications, and our homes meet universal design standards for accessibility. I think that we're really pleased with the progress that home builders in this space have made over the past 20 some odd years in building better homes. The cross mod home, for example, is built to match the features and aesthetics of modern site-built homes, but also qualifies those homes for mortgage financing programs available from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac that you touched on.
Right. Grant, maybe you should just, for people who aren't in the know, in the weeds, what's a cross mod?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So a cross mod home is, and this actually might address one of the first questions that I saw in the Q&A as well. So a cross mod home is what we call a HUD code home. So it meets that federal building standard. It's really the only one like it in the country. And just to say that it is built to meet certain specifications, primarily those of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's mortgage financing programs. So Freddie Mac's is Choice Home, Fannie Mae's is MH Advantage. So homes that meet this specification have certain requirements on aesthetics and build quality that make them more comparable to site-built homes. There are appraisal guidelines for those mortgage programs and also for FHA mortgages as well. Also mean that those homes can be appraised against site-built counterparts, which I think makes it a much fairer appraisal for the quality of homes that we're talking about. So again, a cross-mod home, still a HUD code home. It's just built to a specification that qualifies it for those financing programs.
Great, thanks for clarifying that. Now, we for this first iteration of our benchmark, we use the federal energy certifications, the Energy Star and the Zero Energy Ready homes. Are there some other certification products out there that we should be looking at and seeing if we can get data about participation?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I would like to see HUD doing is developing and disseminating optional guidance on manufactured homes that meet standards with a greater degree of resilience. So an example of this would be IBHS's Fortified program, which is designed to strengthen homes and commercial buildings against specific types of natural hazards such as high winds, hail, hurricanes, and tornadoes. There is a path for manufactured homes to meet this certification through both roof requirements and foundation requirements. So standards like Fortified not only protect the health and safety of home occupants during extreme weather, but also help qualify homeowners for insurance discounts and tax credits. And we're very much seeing a blossoming insurance crisis in the housing space, and we need to ensure that manufactured homes don't fall behind as site builders seek to address this in the market. I think we should also be considering how place-based housing and community developers are operating in regions vulnerable to specific natural disasters. So a great example of this is NPHS working in the Inland Empire of Southern California. I think we've all seen the devastating impacts of wildfire in Southern California over the past several weeks now. They actually build all manufactured homes that are going to be placed as part of their programs to the Wildland Urban Interface, or WUI, which is always a fun acronym, to help safeguard life and property from wildland fire. So I do think that there is a lot of space for the MHCC and for HUD to be exploring how optional guidance can support those building efforts in those homeowners.
Great. And I think the challenge for us is when there are these private and proprietary certifications, the data don't always get published. And in some cases, as we know, there's a lot of things we'd like to know that we know that HUD and EPA and DOE between them have, but they have not found ways to publish it in a way that protects the manufacturers, protects the privacy of the buyers, and yet gives us useful information. So I guess that's a topic we can bring up with them in the future.
Yeah, and I think to that point really quickly, Kim, I think it's incredibly valuable, again, specifically as we're talking with state and local stakeholders who are interested in increasing housing supply in their communities. If we're able to talk about the kind of manufactured housing stock that's already in those communities, already in those states, what percentage of units are Energy Star, Zero Energy Ready, I think that helps us build a much more effective case statement when we're talking with those local stakeholders who are kind of charged with increasing housing supply in a region.
Great, great. Well, with that, I think we'll see if we have some audience questions and see if we can manage answering those. And did people say what their other roles are? Did we get any responses to that to know who is here with us today? Daniel, are you helping us with this?
No, we do have a planner from the town of Dryden, New York, and someone who is a cooperative development special for resident-owned manufactured housing communities in New England. And then we have a couple of questions. I answered one on in writing, but that was just what is the difference between a manufactured home and a modular home? So I just clarified. Modular is treated like a site-built home and is subject to state building codes. Manufactured housing is the only form of housing that has a national building code that it's subject to. These homes are also called HUD code homes. And in terms of visuals, while I hesitate to say this, any of the homes that are prior to 1976, those could be more properly referred to and should be as mobile homes. But there is a distinct difference. If they're after 1976, they are HUD code homes. We have another question. Thoughts on why the number of states with HUD certified factories has been steady between 2019 and 2023? Is the supply from these states meeting the demand / no issues or need for other states to join in?
Yeah,
that's a great question.
It is a great question.
I think I'm sure that there is I'm sure there's a lot of answers to that question. I'll kind of narrow in on part of what I think the challenge is there. So I would argue that no, I think you'd be hard pressed to find any state in the country that's currently meeting the need for more affordable housing supply. If you look at research from National Low Income Housing Coalition and other organizations, pretty much every county in the country is currently under a housing supply crunch, whether it's rural, suburban, or an urban area. I think part of the reason why you don't see a broader uptick in manufactured housing as a solution is that there still exists quite a persistent stigma and stereotype around this type of housing. And I think that at the state and local level, we have a lot more work to do in order to convince folks that this is an attractive and viable solution to address their housing supply needs. I think that there's a lot of great conversations happening at the federal level, at the academic research level, but we need to translate that down to the folks that are actually doing place-based housing and community development work, the local folks who hold the keys to policy and planning and zoning as well, which is a huge barrier, I think, to a lot of this work across the country. But to the original point of the question, this is an industry that prior to 2003 was building more than 300,000 homes a year. Over the past several years, we've kind of been stubbornly stuck at just around 100,000, give or take a few units year over year. So, I think that there is a huge case statement to be made for more manufactured housing and also bringing more home building facilities online, which creates high-paying jobs and economic opportunities in areas as well.
Great. I have a couple of other questions. I'm going to tie them together. We also have some folks who are someone from Washington State. But one of the questions discusses foundations. So if you could address a little bit about, one, where are manufactured housing? Are they solely in parks or are they on owned land? And then also, if there's any incentive for park owners or others, what role do the types of foundations play in terms of manufactured housing, including financing even? I don't know who wants to take that.
That's a good bundle of questions. I'll get started, and then maybe Grant, as the on the ground person, can weigh in. So, actually, many manufactured homes are placed on land that is owned by the homeowner. So it's slightly over half of the homes are actually on owned land. So in that case, the choice of a foundation is up to the homeowner. This is why we want to really look at this issue closely in the next year or so and see what we can learn. In the 35 states where the states oversee the placement, manufacturers and installers can get engineered solutions approved, and so they can put folks in. And I see Erica is putting a question. If you know states that are forward thinking about foundations and placement strategies, we would love to know who they are to bring them into this conversation. So we are curious to see whether there are other foundation systems that have been approved in the 30 years since FHA last issued design guidelines that we would all, in those of us focused on quality and durability, would agree should count as a permanent foundation. So right now we're limited by having this one standard from 1996 that's governing what's considered permanent, what's considered mortgageable. Grant, as far as placement in communities versus on-site and encouraging more permanent foundations in community settings, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, kind of indirectly. So, in the vast majority of instances, if a home is going into a land lease community, and whether that's owned and operated by a community operator or whether that's a resident-owned cooperative, that home is going to be financed with a home-only loan. And Kim talked about that a little bit in her presentation. And more often than not, those homes are not going on permanent foundations. New Hampshire is the only state currently in the country that, regardless of whether a home is being sited in a land lease community or it's being sited on owned private land, that home can still qualify for mortgage financing. So we have yet to see that kind of replicate in other states across the country. I think Kim alluded to an interesting point earlier about the permanent foundations and incentives for that. We still see a significant number of folks who are going to be placing homes on owned land that decide to go for foundations and financing that doesn't meet for example the GSE's financing programs for manufactured homes, that mortgage financing. And there's an element of choice in that, but to me that kind of begs the question: are folks getting the kind of education and knowledge base that they need before purchasing and financing a home? Are they aware, for example, that there are enhanced mortgage options it's tied to your foundation, that you can get a better rate for a mortgage, 30-year mortgage, if you go with a certain foundation type? So I certainly think there's room for education in that respect.
Yes, I think, there's a lot of pieces, right? A home is manufactured. In some cases, in many cases, homes still are purchased through a retailer in that retail model. And, a pure foundation is faster, it's cheaper. And so there's a lot of incentives in the delivery system to get families to agree to that. And then the manufacturer's instructions, that's their first, how to site the pier foundations is the only choice they really put in their installation manuals. And they do talk about permanent foundations, but maybe you have to go to the website, or it's just in passing. So there's a lot of places along the whole sequence that there's room for improvement in how it works and how purchasers get information about what is the right choice for them, and a lot of incentives in the system to not encourage them to explore or choose those better options. But for me, I call these this space, I call it not so mobile homes. And I think part of the challenge is homes don't move once they get to their site, right? And so we really should be putting the bias on making sure that homes are placed in a durable, resilient, permanent, safe way. And so that's why there's a lot of room for conversation around foundations that we hope that we're going to be able to dive into. And if you want to be part of that conversation, put your name in the chat so we capture you for future reference.
Okay. We have a couple of more questions and a bit more time, which is great. As it relates to barriers for the use of manufactured housing as an affordable housing option, hasn't the removal of MH zoning from many locality ordinances stymied the use over time?
Yes. And that's where the disclaimer from the beginning of the presentation is worth reminding people about, which is that this report didn't try to get into those kind of questions. That's certainly an issue that the I'm Home Network studies a lot and advocates around and puts out papers about and is trying to change. But that isn't something that we covered in this report.
Yeah, I will say that NextStep, our organization, we actually have a document we put out last year kind of exploring this issue more fully. I'll get that over to the administrators on the Zoom so that they can send that link out to you folks. You have access to it. But absolutely, local zoning remains a huge challenge to the placement and siting of more manufactured homes.
And there's also a paper on the I'm Home website at Lincoln that also covers issues around home ownership, manufactured housing, the barriers it faces due to land use and planning.
So, Erica, we wanted
Our
to
next question,
Oh.
can I get,
yeah, can we get one
sorry.
more in? And then we just have
Yep.
one audience participation question. So that we want to get in before we run out of time.
Sure. Do you know if any states have direct to manufacturer partnerships to build homes at cost for direct delivery to manufactured housing communities that are preserved for long-term affordable home ownership, such as resident-owned communities or ROCs, housing authorities, nonprofits, etc.?
Grant.
I don't know of any. It's a great question. Off the top of my head, I don't know of any states that have a direct relationship where they're facilitating the ordering of homes for the purposes of doing development or infill work. I certainly think that's an interesting model to explore. But off the top of my head, no, I don't know of any. The way that it works in most states is that if you are operating in a state doing manufactured housing work, you need to get certified as a manufactured housing retailer within that state in order to facilitate the purchase from a home building facility. And also the siting of that home, whether it's going on permanent land in a neighborhood or whether it's going into a land lease community.
Great. Erica, can we transition to our question for the audience here today? Or is there any last burning question we should answer?
I don't think we have any last burning issues. There was one, and I don't know Grant because I know of the work NextStep does, but about heliacal foundations.
Also a great question. I don't have the answer to that one off the top of my head. I know who asked that question, so I can always follow up with that attendee individually as well.
So
okay, great.
All right. So we have one last poll. It's a short answer, just a few hundred characters. What to you feels most urgent to suggest to us that we try to consider in our 2025 benchmark effort and report? So we'll give you 1 minute.
While folks are filling that out, Erica, if you don't mind, one thing I did want to go back to very quickly, the question of manufactured versus modular, I think brought up a couple different times, and just to say that I think oftentimes that folks mistake the quality of a modular home for being superior to that of a manufactured home. It really does come down to a difference of the code that they're built to, right? One being built to that federal code, one being built to the local code. You get more cost savings out of the manufactured home just because of that federal code, as opposed to having to build to whatever county or local local requirements that the modular home is going to. But oftentimes they're built in the exact same facilities, leveraging the exact same raw building materials.
Okay, that's helpful to clarify. Thank you, Grant. Can we close the poll and see what people have suggested for our work this year? Are we seeing any answers come up? I'm not seeing anything there. Are you?
I am not, no. I don't know if it shows their actual responses on the front end. You may only be able to see them on the back end of the webinar.
Yeah. So I think that we're getting some of them put into the chat from our webinar guru. Eric, are you able to highlight a couple?
I don't. Oh, sure. Cooperation or resistance of local communities to manufactured homes. What are the primary concerns and how can they be met? Highlight efforts to recruit and train the next generation of MH and modular installers. Yay, love that. Manufactured housing and good cause evictions in manufactured housing communities, state laws on evictions from MHCs, homeowners who cannot move their homes, more information on where zero homes are being placed. Any mobile home parks are being sold to developers with no compensation to mobile home owners, how to best appraise the value of manufactured homes. Those are great questions for us to delve into some future research.
All really good suggestions.
We're still getting more demographic data on who's purchasing manufactured housing. So I can let you know this, we have some fact sheets that are coming out on a state-by-state basis. We have some of them already on the I'm Home website that goes into the demographics of manufactured housing residents. So please, we're going to be rolling out a whole lot more. We have about half of the states done, with the rest of them coming soon. Mortgage financing for alternative foundation systems, addressing the foundations issue, percent of localities permitting manufactured housing in residential communities, and a few more, but I see we're out of time. We are capturing all of these, and I just want to say thank you to both Kim and to Grant. I also want to thank you, the attendees of our webinar. We're really appreciative that you're interested and engaged on this topic, and I'm Home stands here to try to answer any questions that you have. So once again, thank you so much for participating. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.